Hello, my sunshines, and welcome to episode 11 of your session with me, Dr. Deborah Brown. And we're very excited because we have now done 10 episodes, and today we want to make it a little different. Our first 10 episodes covered all of your basics about mental health. We've talked about anxiety, relationships, stress, all kinds of things about your mental health. But now, what we want to do with our next 10 episodes is talk about things that are more specific or more kind of interesting and juicy related to some of the specific things that people come into therapy for. And a lot of the psychological type questions that people have that they go to the internet for answers for. So, what I want to do is give you an alternative to Google is for some of these topics, you can Google and you'll find 12 different answers. And you have to kind of choose the one that makes sense for you and not know if they're even credible. So, today, when we're going to talk about dreams, which is a hot topic, we're going to talk about it from all different perspectives. I'm going to give you some neuroscience thoughts, some thoughts about your biology, and we're going to get into some fun analysis and interpretation of dreams. So, a lot of the topics that we're going to be doing in our next 10 are going to be based on things like neuroscience and science and psychology, but also a lot of it is my experience. So keep in mind what we're talking about today, a lot of it is interpretive. So just as you would Google and get 12 answers, I could be one of those 12 answers. Doesn't mean I have all the answers, but I can give you my interpretations based on seeing many, many, many people for many years in the therapist chair and knowing what's in most people's heads and the heads of the people that I have learned from. So today's topic is about dreams because it's one of those things that I get asked about a lot. What do my dreams mean? Do dreams mean anything? Why do we dream? All of the dream questions we're going to answer today. And I'm really excited because this is a very fun subject. So, we're going to look at different perspectives today. We're going to look at your anatomy. Why does your brain do this to you? Neuroscience, what's happening inside of your brain when this is happening? And we're also going to look at analysis, meaning, does that dream really mean something or not? So, let's start with the statistics here. The truth of it is that most of us have about 3 to 6 dreams a night, which sounds like a lot. Some people say, "Oh, I never dream." Most of us are having 3 to 6 dreams a night, and a lot of people would say that's not true, I don't have that, but these are episodes. A dream episode can be 15 minutes, it can be 6 minutes, it can be these little short thought blips. But the reason that you don't know that is that 95% of those dreams leave you completely, leave your consciousness, leave your memory by the time you get out of bed. 95% of that's gone. And I think that percentage is very different for every person. I know people that think about their dreams all day, and I know people that say they never remember a dream. So the interesting thing about dreams is what we don't know. And a lot of the research on dreams is very conflicting based on who you ask, because a lot of it is based on self report. When we collect data on dreams and when we study dreams, the only thing that we have is what people tell us. And people don't always tell the truth because some dreams are embarrassing and people don't always remember. So a lot of what we know about dreams is kind of anecdotal, it's not a full story. So let's talk about what people say about dreams. My least favorite thing that people say about dreams is this: when I dream, it means this. I read that if my teeth fall out, that means I'm going to have bad luck. Those are really not great things to think because you're finding signs on the internet that might not be true signs. And that can be very misleading for you in your own brain. If you have a dream that's full of dread and you believe that that dream means something is going to happen to you. That's the part I could probably say from my experience I want you to be careful about. A dream is not a fortune teller. It's not necessarily telling you something true. And my other thing that I hate to hear about dreams is when people say, it's not real. That's a really terrible thing to say. Somebody wakes up from a nightmare and they had a terrible experience and they're exhausted and you go, "Well, it's not real." Well, it was real to them. So, if you look at things like PET scans and EEGs that scan the brain while we're sleeping, the PET scan or the EEG of a person who is awake looks very similar to a person in REM sleep. So what that tells us is that when you're sleeping, you are experiencing those emotions. You are feeling the things that are happening. So I'm going to start with a poem about what sleep is to some people. It's by D.H. Lawrence. It's called Sleep. Sleep is the shadow of death, but not only that, sleep is a hint of lovely oblivion when I am gone, completely lapsed and gone, and healed from all this ache of being. So, what's supposed to happen in sleep is that you escape, you have this beautiful, restful time where you're not thinking about anything. And for a lot of us, that's not true. For a lot of us, our sleep is disrupted and a little tormented sometimes by nightmares or by dreams that confuse us. So I think it's really important to have sleep that's refreshing, to not suffer nightmares, to not have all these confusing things happen that we try to decipher. So we want to get dreams in the right place. And the best way we can do that is by understanding what they are and what they mean. So why don't we remember? Well, we don't remember dreams because there is a lot of stuff happening in our brains when we're sleeping that makes sure that we don't remember. You have this part of your brain for memory called a hippocampus, and that part of your brain is asleep when you're sleeping. It's not real active. It's active, but it's not real active. So when you're waking up, it's starting to rouse. So it's not remembering because it's not active enough to put what just happened in your dream into your memory. The other thing is that we have these trans neurotransmitters that release when we're sleeping. Norepinephrine is one, and it's low while we're sleeping. So our memory, again, not real active. So we don't remember because our brain isn't really supposed to remember. So why do we dream? Basically, the short version of that is we have all of these chemicals in our brain that happen when we sleep. And all of the things in our brain that we keep don't all go entirely to sleep. So while you're sleeping, some of that stuff wakes up. And without the environment around you to control you, it goes a little off the rails sometimes. It's basically your imagination living without limits. So let's get into some of the top 10 most common dreams. And these are pretty much bad dreams. And I looked around on the internet and I looked around in the research and said, what are people saying are the most common dreams? And it was interesting because I got the same data over and over again, the same topics, and my experience aligned. So these are the top 10, but I think they're pretty accurate. And what I want to do is I'm going to name each one of them and I'm going to tell you what it means. Now, you're gonna laugh when you hear some of these because you're probably gonna go, "Oh, I've had that one." I bet you if I asked you about these 10 that you probably have had 7 of them at least. So, I want you to consider that the meaning of each one of those dreams that I'm gonna give you is my opinion based on what I've seen in people that have these dreams. So, the first one, now these are in no particular order. I'm gonna give you 1 through 10, but not in order. First one, bathroom dreams. Now, you know you've had this dream where you had to go to the bathroom and you couldn't find a bathroom or nothing was clean or you went stall after stall or you just couldn't find a bathroom at all. That's a terrible dream. Now, I think there's a physiological basis for that dream. I think that what it is our body has to go to the bathroom, but our brain knows that it can't because you don't pee the bed. So, because your brain knows that it can't, it goes through all of these trials and tribulations. So, I think the bathroom dream is very much about a physiological response that you can't answer because you're sleeping and your brain's trying to solve that problem for you. Oh, I have to go to the bathroom. Let me find a bathroom. But your brain doesn't know that you're in bed. It thinks you're out somewhere wandering. Number two, being unprepared at work or at school. This is one that we have all different ways. I forgot my homework. I have to take a test that I'm not studied for. I showed up at work and my presentation isn't done. This one is a really common one. And it's so interesting how many people that haven't been in school for decades have this one. So, what does it really mean? If you're having dreams about elementary school or being on the bus without your homework, and why would you have that? I believe that our fear is related to not being good enough. I'm going to get in a situation where I'm supposed to perform and I'm not going to be able to do it. I won't be prepared. And what does that say about me? That one's pretty common. I hear that one a lot. Losing teeth. That one really is a big dream. I have had that one so many times, and it's terrible when you have it. You feel the teeth leaving your mouth, you see them in your hand. What a horrible thing. This one to me is about body integrity. We all inherently have an instinct in us that we want to keep our body whole. So when something like a tooth falling out when you're an adult is horrifying. Why do you think there are all these body horror movies out there? People pulling out their teeth or cutting off their fingers. It's because it's a visceral human fear. We have a desire to keep body integrity, keep our bodies whole. Losing teeth is just such an inherent part of our humanity that I don't believe this one means anything specific about your life. I think this one is about you as a human wanting to maintain body integrity. Even something as simple as losing your hair. People have that one too. That's the same thing. Imagine if right now I shaved all your hair off. How would you react? It would take you a minute because you have body integrity. You have parts of your body that are supposed to be there. And when they're not, you have to adjust. Number four, falling. We've all felt that one where you jump because you fall and you're walking or you trip. That one is really based in a physiological response, I believe. Everything that I've studied about dreams tells me that there are all these stages that we go through when we sleep. And when you fall through the layers of your consciousness, there are different levels of awareness around you. So the falling dream most often occurs when we're transferring between awake and asleep. We're almost asleep and then we jump ourselves awake. It's because you're falling through your consciousness and your body reacts to that. Number five, being chased. This one is huge. I talk to a lot of people who have had trauma about their nightmares, and one of the frequent ones is the theme of peril, being chased. And being chased or running away, or that one where you're running and your legs move but you're not moving, those are about security, about fear. If you are being chased, if you are in peril, you are not secure and you're afraid. These appear to most often come from the past, unless you're currently in something that's really traumatic. But the one about being chased is about peril. If you're having dreams about peril, I would say either you're being exposed to something really stressful or there's some peril in your past that maybe you haven't worked through. Number six, being naked in public. I don't know. Almost everybody's had this one where you are somewhere like school or work or on the bus and you're naked. And that one is very prevalent. And I think this is one of those universal human ones again, that every human, almost every human, has a fear of being embarrassed. And what is more embarrassing than being naked? You are literally in front of everyone naked. You're embarrassed. Whether your body's perfect or not perfect isn't even the issue. It's the idea of being naked when everyone else has clothes on. So most humans have a natural fear of embarrassment. How high is yours? I know people that it's way too high. They won't do anything to make themselves stand out for fear of being embarrassed. They won't wear an earring bigger than this, or they won't wear a certain kind of shoes. They're petrified of being embarrassed. So being naked in public, all about embarrassment. Number 7, your partner cheating on you. This one happens to a lot of people. And there's another part nobody talks about, which is the one where you cheat on your partner. And those dreams are common, I have seen, even in very healthy relationships. The nightmare of being cheated on or cheating. I've had people come to me with their tail between their legs and come to a session and say, I had a dream about a coworker last night and I cheated on my wife. And they feel terrible about it. And they're like, I thought of that. Does that mean I want to cheat? And it's so interesting to me because there's such a guilt in dreaming about something. You don't have control. You don't have control over what you dream over. It originates from you, but it gets a little stirred up. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in this. But cheating is a common one. And what I believe that's about is it's about fear. If you're in a partnership where you love someone very much, or in a partnership that's problematic, in both those cases, you have a fear that you would lose them. If I'm in a really good relationship, I'm going to be afraid to lose that person. If I'm in a bad relationship, I'm going to be afraid of what's going to happen in that relationship, that maybe it's going to end. Those fears will take us to places in our brain that don't make any sense. So if you have a dream about your partner cheating on you, it's more likely that you are afraid that they are not in the relationship the way they should be, that they might be tempted to do something to hurt you. If you do it, it's your own little unconscious desires popping up in ways that are kind of self-sabotaging. If you wake up and go, that was great, I really liked that, I want you to think about that. But if you wake up and go, oh, I feel terrible, why did I dream that? That's okay. That's probably the best reaction to that. The one I hear frequently about this is that somebody is with an ex-partner in the cheating. That one is not surprising at all. Because if you're having sex with an old partner, you did that. It's familiar, it's in your memories. It's not too hard for your brain to fish that out of the vegetable soup of your thoughts and just put that one up out there for you. Don't worry about these too much unless you have them a lot, because I think these are normal parts of how we process our relationships. Number 8, sex. It is reported that 70% of people have dreams about sex relatively frequently. And that number I think is wrong. I think it's higher. I think people just don't talk about it because there's a shame associated sometimes with sex. But dreaming about sex is so normal. It's so normal, unless the dreams are violent or aggressive or negative. Dreaming about having sex, about, with all kinds of people or whatever it is. But I think they're normal, and I don't think you should be criminalizing yourself for them. But I would look at the thematic content. Let's say that you are in a heterosexual relationship, but the dreams you have about sex are about homosexual sex, right? I want you to think about that. There's something your brain's exploring there. What does it mean? That's loaded. You got to talk that through with somebody. If it happens once, not a big deal. Anything that happens more than once, like we're talking about this top 10, we all have them. But if you have one of the top 10 over and over again, there's a message in there we have to look at. Number 9, natural disasters or end of the world dreams. Those are really prevalent lately. I've seen a lot more of those in the past several years than I did previously. Natural disasters, we're talking about tidal waves, tsunamis, earthquakes, things like that, storms, and end of the world things, zombie apocalypse, these hard things. I think there's a natural human curiosity about these things, and you'll notice the amount of movies about these things is huge. Everything from movies about the Titanic or the Poseidon Adventure to movies about zombies, right? Like we have all of these dark end of the world thoughts. Again, part of our humanity. We all, read about the flood, in the Bible and all of the stories in literature about the things that happened. And there are a million stories out there that are about tragic, overwhelming, horrible things. And the truth of it is those things are rare. You can go through your whole entire life without ever experiencing any of those things, but it doesn't mean you're not afraid of it. And I think these dreams are us sorting out, are we safe? If you dream about this kind of stuff frequently, if you're in a tsunami and you can't get away, if you're stuck in an earthquake, if you're in a zombie apocalypse, if you're in the middle of these things frequently, those are terrifying nightmares. Those are horrifying feelings. And remember, the feelings that you're feeling in a dream, you're feeling. So imagine you wake up and you were just in a tsunami. You're not going to feel real good that day, and you're not going to necessarily know why, but you went through something. So why do we do that? I think many of us are trying to sort out if the world is safe or not, if the world is a good or a bad place. And things that are beyond our control, like earthquakes, shake the foundation of what we believe. We can walk through the world and think the world is good, the world is great. And then a tornado comes and swoops up your house. Could it happen? Sure. Is it likely? Probably not unless you're in Kansas. But in New Jersey, we're going to be okay. But I want you to think about if you're dreaming about those things, are you trying to sort out if you're safe or not? Are you walking around feeling out of control? Are you worried that something bad is going to happen? If you walk around waiting and worrying about something bad happening, it could happen in your dreams. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Number 10, last one, trauma memories. This is a frequent one, and this one is one that's very helpful for me. And when I work with people, is they'll come in and they'll have a dream and they'll share with me in the session about, I had this dream about this person who hurt me, and I don't know if it was real or not. And sometimes what happens in dreams is you'll remember a piece of something that really happened, or a piece of something that's close to what happened, you know, and you will not always remember it like a brilliant, bright memory, but sometimes it makes you question, did something really happen? I had somebody who brought a dream to me once about being run over by a car. And in the dream, the person that was running her over was somebody that had actually hurt her in real life. But he was running her over with the car over and over again. And the car was irrelevant. He never ran her over with a car, but he had hurt her. And she's like, why would I think that? And the truth of it is that in trauma, we're always trying to sort out our version of what happened because very often another person's version is not the same. And our version is the one that matters. But sometimes our brain is trying to illuminate things and make things clear. And I have had people that have had some of their first recollections about trauma in dreams. And then we start to talk about it and we go, well, maybe that didn't happen, but did something else? So trauma dreams are signals. They're signals that are saying to you, maybe you got to work through this or pay attention to this because this is something that's still in you and your brain's trying to work through it when you go to sleep. So, when we look at the meanings of dreams, this is all very, very interpretive, right? Five people could have the same dream and it could mean five different things. But it's important to look at it not in the sense that you're looking at every detail as some true predictor of something. We have to think about how we look at dreams and what they're telling us. There are all kinds of theories in the world of psychology that say that dreams are really about memory, or dreams are about gaining insight into something, or dreams are an unconscious desire, or dreams are us problem solving. Maybe those are true in little bits, in little different ways, but it's really different for every person. And I love when people come to me and want to talk about their dreams because I tell you, I will always learn something about a person when they tell me about their dreams. So remember, dreams are not literal, right? If you tell somebody, I had a dream I killed someone with an axe, that doesn't mean you're going to kill someone with an axe, but it does mean something about you, and we have to figure out what it is. What happens in the dream is not always important. It's the emotion that you feel in the dreams that matters. So think about this. What if you have nightmares every night and they're all different things, but the general emotion is peril, is you being chased? If you had that nightmare 1,000 ways, it wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter whether it was zombies or robbers or family members who were chasing you. What would matter was that you were being chased every night. So look at the emotion that you feel. If you have crazy, weird dreams, but you leave them feeling like, well, that was a fun ride, then the emotion in the dream is that you're okay. Those dreams aren't really that important. That could just be your creative memory and emotions flying around. But if you have dreams that have themes that are negative emotions, that's when I really get concerned because you're supposed to wake up refreshed. You're not supposed to wake up fighting off the demons of the night before. And if you are, then that's pointing me to something. We're going to talk about what that is in a minute. But first, let's go to what should we be looking at? What should we be interpreting? Images. If there's a certain picture that comes to your mind, symbols, if there are certain symbols that show up in your dream, if there's a cross in your dream and you're not religious, or if there's a cross and you are religious, people. Who are the people showing up in your dream? Are they the same people? Is it people from the past? Is it people in your life now? And the places. I think the places are kind of important sometimes. If you dream about a specific house that you lived in, if you dream about a specific workplace that you lived in or worked in, if you dream about those places, I want you to think about why. A lot of people will say, I always dream of my childhood home. Well, how does the dream feel when you're there? Is every dream about your childhood home peaceful and happy? Or is every dream sad? If you came to me and said, I dream about my childhood home a couple times a month and I wake up very disturbed, then I know I've got to talk to you about what happened in that house because you haven't worked through it yet. If you dream about a workplace that you haven't worked there for a decade, but you're dreaming about it, there's something about that we have to talk about and figure out because there's something your brain is trying to work out about that place. Were you traumatized there? Was it so beautiful that you want to go back? As long as you can figure out what the answer is and what you think it means, that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it can be really interesting to look at dream themes that repeat, symbols that show up over and over again, um, and things that are poking you. If something's showing up over and over again, it's poking you. It's pointing to something. And I want you to pay attention to what those things are. There are things that are natural to show up a lot. If you lived in the same house for the first 18 years of your life, a lot of your memory is contextual to that house. Wouldn't be unusual if it shows up. But if there's a persistent emotion attached to that house in the dream, that's what I want us to be concerned about. So let's talk about why we have bad dreams, some of the reasons behind that. We've already talked about trauma. I think nightmares are very often tied to traumatic issues in our brain that we have put away and that they come out when we're sleeping. I think stress causes nightmares. A lot of people have the not being prepared for a school assignment nightmare during times of stress. Anxiety. Chronic anxiety over time changes the way that you dream. If you are a very anxious person during the day, your brain just doesn't stop being anxious when you go to sleep. Sometimes you'll have a lot of anxiety dreams, and those increase your anxiety during the day. That's where it becomes a clinical issue. If you have enough bad dreams that you're waking up and the mornings are a struggle every day, you probably have an anxiety issue or there's something going on because your dreams are supposed to leave. And if you're carrying them through the day, it's because they're either sending you a message or your brain isn't releasing your anxiety while you're sleeping. There are sleep disorders, things like narcolepsy cause you to fall into that deep REM sleep differently than other people. There are medications that are prone to causing nightmares. There are a lot of people who take a lot of medications these days, and sometimes some of those medications are indicated, have sleep issues and dream issues indicated in. Look at the side effect profile and just see before you think that your dreams might be something else. They could be a medication side effect. Unmet needs. This is a big reason people have nightmares. People sometimes have nightmares or dreams about things that they yearn for, or that things that have been taken from them, or something that they need. So think about it. Are you dreaming about unmet needs? I have a person who he used to dream about his ex-husband, and in his dream, he was always beating him up. And he used to say, I'd never hit anyone in my life. Why am I beating up my ex-husband? And when we talked about it, we started to realize he had an unmet need to express things that he never got to express in the marriage or after the divorce. So we set up a meeting and they had lunch and they talked about things. And that was an easy one because the dreams went away. And all it was him trying to find a way to say something. But his brain, when he was sleeping, didn't convey that into anything other than a fight. And the last one is frustration. I think people have nightmares out of frustration. I think people who feel powerless or frustrated or stuck will often have really bad dreams that magnify that. So there are lots of reasons why we have nightmares. Another thing I wanted to bring up is something called lucid dreaming. You'll see this a lot when you pull up or Google dreams. Lucid dreaming is where people believe that they can be aware that they're dreaming and they can change the content of their dream or act in their dream, knowing that it's a dream. I think this is extremely rare. I have never met anyone who actually does this, but some of the statistics say that it's like 38% of people can do this. This is where the internet lies. Um, I don't believe we have a lot of control over our dreams. I think it would be really nice. I have a lot of people I've worked with over the years that have traumatic nightmares that I'm sure they wish they could get in there and say, hey, this is just a dream. But I don't want to set you up for an expectation where you're ever going to be able to do that because nobody understands why or we can't do that or why we can. But lucid dreaming is a misleading idea that somehow we have control and we can change. I think once the dreams start rolling, there's not much we can do typically. So, what do the experts say about dreaming? What do the people in the fields of psychology and neuroscience, how do they explain all of this? And when we think about psychology, we think about a couple of big heads in that world, Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, right? They're the big guys. And Carl Jung said that the dreams are a potent message from our unconscious. And I like that. I think that's true. I believe that. I think that a lot of our dreams are nonsense material, but there's something in there that comes from us. And a doctor said to me a long time ago about nightmares, he said, you're writing them. And I was so astounded by that. And I still am. He said, they come from you. And you're being victimized by these horrible nightmares. And you're saying, my nightmares, they're terrible, but you're writing them. And I really had to think about that. It's not to say that it's my fault or that I'm in control of them, but they are originating from me. So if you listen to what Jung said, potent messages from your subconscious. And keep in mind, the subconscious is this piece of you that's below the surface that we don't access a whole lot, but it drives us. So if they're potent messages, what are our dreams trying to tell us? It is important to interpret them. Sigmund Freud said that they originate in our fears, our threats, and our conflicts, and that our dreams are a way of us trying to resolve those things by making them real and putting them into scenarios. I think there's value in that too. I think that we do have threats that come to us in our daily life and fears and conflicts that we want to work out. And just because we go to sleep doesn't mean that those processes in our brains are not still trying to work through those things. So I think they're both right. I think what neuroscience says, and I'm going to read this because it's a big old definition, but I like it. Dreams are a complex interplay of brain activity during REM sleep. It's the activation of brain regions and neurotransmitters, and these draw on memories and imagination that all of us draw and from our own resources to create our dreams. I think that's true too. And then there's a whole other school of thought, sometimes in the medical world, that says that dreams are just a byproduct of sleep, that they're random and that they really don't mean anything. And that maybe they're some level processing of emotions. So it's interesting. So even the experts don't have an answer. So if you think about it, if nobody really has an answer, you have to take all of these opinions, just like I do, and draw from it what you believe. And I draw from all of this is that we don't know because it's very hard to get a concrete answer on something that exists only inside of your head. The only way we learn about dreams is the story that you tell about them. And we don't completely understand why they happen or how they happen or what they mean. But just because we don't understand it fully doesn't mean it's not valuable. So there is one way of explaining this that I use with patients all the time, and it helps me to help them understand what's happening. And it's the simplest thing in the world. You have all these parts of your brain that do all different things. And you have these two pieces in your head called the hippocampus and the amygdala. Stay with me, this is a good one. So the hippocampus is memory and the amygdala is emotion. So memory and emotion, right? Through the course of our day, we're driven by that. Our memories are important, our emotions are important. But through the course of our day, our prefrontal cortex up here filters all of that. So we don't just run wild with emotion. We don't just live in the memories in our head. Our sort of frontal lobe monitoring filters all that all day. But when you go to sleep, that filter shuts off. So when the filter shuts off and your memory and emotion are running wild, of course your dreams are bizarre. Of course they're extreme. Of course they're intense. They are unfiltered memory and emotion. So that's what happens when you dream. But then the content of that memory and emotion is so different for everyone. So think about that, is that you're going to sleep and parts of you are not going to sleep. And maybe they're giving you information that you need to think about. So I always recommend a book, and there are a million dream books out there. And I want you to be careful about some of what I call pop psychology, where you have a book that lists all the objects and tells you what each one of those means. If you dream of a stone in a dream, it means this. If you dream of a hot air balloon, it means this. Those are fun. Don't get too deep in them because they are really not going to give you probably realistic information, because a stone in your dream versus a stone in my dream could mean entirely different things. So be careful of those kind of books. But the book I'm going to give you is a book by Matthew Walker, and it's called Why We Sleep: Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams. And the reason I like this one is because this one isn't just about dream analysis. It's about understanding the connection between sleeping and dreaming. And that's really, really powerful to understand, because sometimes your sleep habits have a lot to do with your dream habits as well. And of course, they're interconnected. So I thought for purposes of this conversation, understanding what sleep does in your brain could be really helpful, because sleep is 1/3 of our lives. So we'll probably eventually do a whole other episode about sleep. But I do want to pop some basic facts in here about it because it's relative to how you dream. So the truth of the matter is that we need sleep to survive. So dreams are a product of that. So we're always going to have dreams because we have to sleep. And the newest research shows that if you are sleeping routinely less than 6.5 hours a night, is that you? Are you routinely sleeping less than 6.5 hours a night? If you are, it could be a problem because it hurts your immune system. And your immune system regulates so much about what happens to you and how it happens to you. It affects your cardiovascular health. It increases your risk of cancer, of dementia related diseases. And that's all facts. That stuff is true. If you regularly do not get enough sleep routinely, you increase your risk for all of those things. And you also increase your risk for psychological disorders based on the fact that your performance in your life is not going to be the same. So, yeah, we all have a bad week or a bad month or a bad night, and that's fine. You can recover from a couple of nights of not sleeping. It's not the end of the world. But if you routinely get a 4 hour sleep cycle, I can guarantee you that that's going to show up in your health in another way at some point. So there are all kinds of beliefs about sleep. There's something called chronotype, which says that we all have a certain way of being in our best sleep cycle. And people say you're an early bird or you're a night owl. That's your chronotype, right? You have to identify that you have a time that is your best time to sleep. I know for me, I don't want to go to bed before midnight. I don't want to get up before 7. And I try really hard not to do those things because to me, my sleep window ideally right now would be 12 to 7 because I get the 7 hours that I need and I get to stay up later and I don't have to get up so early. So think about your chronotype. What are you inherently, ideally, your best sleep window? And if you can make your life fit around that, you are lucky. I know so many people that hate mornings that have to get up, so many people that hate nights that have to work at night. The ideal situation for your health is to work in a field or a schedule that works with your chronotype. So think about that. What are you? Morning bird? Are you a morning, person who loves the morning? Are you a night owl? And is it by necessity? Is it just what you've always done? Or what is it really? But pay attention to that and learn that about yourself and ideally develop a life around it. I know for me, I would never see a patient at 8 a.m. You do not want me at 8 a.m. I'm not at my best. But I've seen patients at 10 p.m., and that's cool. That's fine. And a lot of people don't like to do that. But does that mean that I'm wrong? No, that's my chronotype. And I find a lot of relationships are uh, you have somebody who likes the morning and somebody who likes the night. I'm in one of those. And the first thing you have to do is acknowledge it. I can't really have conversations early in the morning. Please don't talk to me early in the morning because I'm not going to process that well. Or I can't do anything serious past a certain time because I won't be functional. Know that about yourself. And if you know your chronotype, you'll know the best sleep pattern for you and your sleep will improve. Their science says that the best time to fall asleep is between 10 and 11 p.m. I don't know where they get that from, but that's general consensus. And science also says that the optimal amount of sleep is 7 to 9 hours, for an adult, depending on your age and your physical condition. I think most people do well with 7. I think 9 can be excessive unless you've got something physical going on. So, sleep is a biological process. You need it. And what it does is it helps your psychological processing and your psychological functioning. So if your sleep is polluted with bad dreams, not only is your sleep probably not great, but your next day, your psychological functioning is not going to be great. So why do we sleep? We sleep because we are using that time to clean our brains, for lack of a better word. We are pruning things, we are cleaning up pathways, we are clearing out waste, we are consolidating memories. There's all this growth and repair that happens in our brains while we sleep. And there was a study about the brain eating itself, and I was like, what is that? And what the study said was that all of that growth and repair doesn't take place if you don't get enough sleep. So what happens is the brain actually is not cleaning itself. The brain is getting filled with things that shouldn't be there. So you not sleeping is affecting your psychological health because you're not cleansing and doing all the things that you need to do if you're not sleeping. And I'm going to go over real quick some of the happy brain chemicals because you'll hear a lot of these thrown around, and I want you to understand them in a way that makes sense. A lot of people talk about melatonin, that they take melatonin to sleep. Well, what melatonin really is it's a hormone sent by your pineal gland. And melatonin is released with the gradual darkening of the day. It's what helps you sleep. So when you take melatonin, you're basically taking that to help mimic the absence of that hormone, or you're disconnected to that hormone to help you sleep. So it's interesting if it's connected to the end of the day, it tells us something about why we sleep at night, right? We're supposed to sleep when it's dark. That's what our brain message says to us. Another one is adenosine. I don't know if I'm saying that right because I read it, but I don't say it a lot. Um, Adenosine is a sleepy chemical. It's the thing that happens later in the day when you get sleepy. It's the thing that you wake up with when you're sleepy. This is why we use caffeine. Caffeine blocks that chemical. So that's why people drink coffee in the morning and they're like, oh, you can't talk to me until I have my coffee. That's real because what you're doing is you're blocking the sleepy chemical, which is why we use coffee and caffeine to wake up. Another one is GABA. It's a neurotransmitter. It slows the activity. That one comes out at night as well as we're sleeping and getting ready to sleep, which is why part of why we're not filtering some of those thoughts when we're sleeping, why the dreams are coming out, is because everything is slowed down and unfiltered. And the other one is cortisol. There's a lot of talk out there about cortisol right now, and I encourage you to read about it. If you have any kind of anxiety, read about it because cortisol is a natural occurring substance in your body that's supposed to rise and fall at certain times. It's supposed to rise in the early AM to wake you up nicely. If you're a person who wakes up at 3 in the morning, a person who wakes up at 4 in the morning and can't get back to sleep, it's because your cortisol is rising before it should be rising. Why does it do that? It's probably dysregulated, probably because of something during your day. Your activity level, your anxiety. A lot of people wake up at 3 in the morning. Your cortisol is sending you a message to wake up because your anxiety is too high. So learning about monitoring your cortisol level becomes really, really important when you think about how you sleep. And disrupted sleep is rough. Anybody who's ever had that, it makes things really hard for you. So that's pretty much all of the details about why we sleep. But if we go back to dreams for a minute, we've given you all of this, I've given you all of this fun stuff about dreams. So what do we do next? Well, I recommend that if you have a lot of dreams or if you have nightmares and you're really interested in kind of exploring this aspect of yourself, get a little book and a pen and put it right next to your bed because 95% of your dreams are jumping out of your head by the time you get out of your bed. If you really are serious about exploring your dreams, write them down. And this is hard. And I know it's hard because when you wake up, you're just not cognitively there. You know about all the chemicals now, you know why, but you're not able sometimes to articulate them. But if you don't, you lose them through the day. So if you are really serious about focusing on your dreams, write them down. And then you can do whatever you want with that. You can look at it yourself, you can share it with somebody else, with a therapist, with a friend. But what I want you to think about is there's probably stuff to be learned in there. What if you write your dreams down for a month and then you look back and go, there's a whole pattern in there. I'm dreaming about loss. I'm dreaming about peril. I'm dreaming about a tropical island. Whatever it is, those patterns are meaningful. You authored that dream. Even if your brain was going wild with chemicals or it was really, really deep in sleep, you authored it. So I need you going through and looking at what you're authoring and why. And you'll learn some things about yourself. Go to a therapist and bring your dreams. We love that, most of us. We love thinking about what they really mean, and most therapists will tell you what they think about what that dream means. And you might be surprised because it might not be something you see right away. So exploring. The answer is there. The answer is in you because it's coming from you. You wrote it. So let's go deep and look at what is the dream trying to tell you, because it might be trying to tell you something. So I am so glad we could talk about this today. And I'm going to invite you, if there are any other juicy, exciting questions you've always wanted to ask or things you've wanted to learn about, you can message us on Instagram at My Session with Dr. Deborah Brown and let us know. We take listener feedback very seriously. So if you have an idea and we love it, you might see it in the next month or so. So, my sunshines, I hope that you all have beautiful dreams and that your dreams reflect a beautiful life. And I hope that until next time, that you feel really good about who you are and what you're doing, and that your dreams show that too. Bye.